So first of all, how's married life?
Great.
Good. It's been so awesome, really.
Can't be better.
What have been one or two things that have just been better than dating?
It's so nice because you don't have to say goodbye. You're just like, you come home and they're there, and it's awesome. It's just like you're hanging out all the time. There's pros and cons to that.
I was going to say I've gained about 10 pounds, so I'm eating well. Didn't have that before.
It's true.
Well, good. So let's just talk a little bit about your guys' wedding experience. You know, we have a lot of couples that are going through similar, you know, that are engaged, getting ready to get married, especially summertime just around the corner. So you got married in the St. George Temple.
Yes.
And then you had 2 receptions because
Yes.
you're from northern Utah, you're from Arizona. So just
Yes.
kind of talk a little bit about your wedding experience.
Okay, so we also got married right around Christmas, and that was hard too because since we got married in St. George, we had people coming from up north, like you said, and then we had people coming from Arizona, and so we wanted to make our actual wedding day as quick as possible, like, because usually you have your wedding and then you have a luncheon and then you have the reception, and we just knew, like, realistically for those that need to get back to Arizona for work or get back up to Salt Lake, it just wouldn't work out to have everything on the same night just for us. And so that's why, so on our actual wedding day, we got married in the temple, and then we had a luncheon right after, and it was really quick. It lasted like, in 2 hours maybe? And then we had the wedding reception up in Salt Lake at Wheeler Farm, and that's a pretty popular venue for the northern Utah area, and we found it was actually way cheaper as well if we did it on a weekday opposed to a weekend. So that worked out as well too, just in our budget. Like, it was so nice to not have to pay as much money just to have it on the next day.
We got married on a Saturday, and then we stayed in St. George for 2 nights, and then we drove to Sandy on Monday, and then we had our reception Monday night.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was really nice, and it was like, our reception was pretty, I would say, low-key too, and we made it so people who had to work that Monday, because we knew people wouldn't be able to take a ton of time off with Christmas coming up right then. So some people were like, oh, that's weird that you're doing it that way, but then in the long run, when people actually came to our reception, they're like, wow, this is so nice, because it wasn't like people weren't exhausted and they weren't tired, and they could come for the time that they come and then they could leave. And what was cool is, like, in Arizona, we just had it in one of his, like, family friend's backyard.
Okay.
And the weather's so nice down there that it was just beautiful, huh? It was in the nighttime, but we did it a little bit earlier as well, which we found out worked pretty well. So a lot of people came. We did it at like 5. It was like from 5 to 8, which was really nice, I thought. So yeah, it was a lot of traveling. I think my parents went to both things and his parents went to both things. So the only people it put a little more stress on, I think, was our parents and, like, maybe our grandparents. But besides that, everyone said how much they liked it, like, not having to do the wedding for hours a day.
Nice.
So yeah.
Now, how long was there between the reception in Salt Lake and then the reception down in Arizona?
2 weeks?
We went to Disneyland in between.
Yeah.
So. Good way to de-stress after the wedding
Right.
night.
It was so
I
nice.
would say about a week or so.
Yeah, so we got married, so our reception was like on the 18th, and then our reception in Salt Lake was on the 18th, and then our other one was like, the 30th or something?
Yeah.
Right before New Year's.
Okay.
And so that was fun too, because we did like a New Year's themed like reception.
Awesome.
It was like Kiss Me at Midnight themed. It was really cute.
That's
Yeah.
good. That
It was
sounds
cute.
fun.
Yeah, it was really, really
Good.
fun.
Well, kind of just let's talk about your wedding day. What was the thing that you remember most about your wedding day, or that really stood out to you?
Did you have anything first?
I mean, the first thing that came to mind was, like, taking pictures, I feel like. Because
Yeah.
that was when you kind of had a chance to talk with them after the pictures were taken. Because once you go in the ceiling room, you don't have an opportunity to talk with anyone, obviously. And when you're at the reception, you're sitting we had like a front table we sat at, and I don't know if I would do that again. Maybe we can talk about that.
Oh, the luncheon, you mean?
Yeah, the luncheon. Anyway, during the pictures, I think, or right after the pictures, we were able to talk with everybody and kind of just relax for
That's
a
the
second.
thing you remember?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Just being able afterwards to talk with everyone.
I would say, yeah, the thing I remember most is like there's little things that always, I think, go wrong, and people are always asking you questions, and I at first was stressing so much about the small things and maybe the details that weren't going right, but then after you actually get married and then you come out of the temple, like, you really just focus on all the people there. So that's something that maybe I would stress, is just make sure, if you can, to have as many people there as you love, because that's something that was super, like, you walk out and you just see everyone, you just want to hug everyone, and it's awesome.
Cool.
The experience. I just say the people is what I remember the most and Hayden. But
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, what about your reception? And you guys had the advantage that you had 2 receptions.
Yes.
So what was the best thing that you liked about the one in Salt Lake and you kind of talked a little bit about the things, but what's something that really stood out to you about each of the receptions? you had?
yeah, well, I think we talked about it a little bit, but what we both really liked is so I guess pros and cons. We had a very relaxed feel for both of our receptions. Like, not too many set events. Like, we did like the flower toss, like the bouquet toss and like the garter and stuff. We did those things, but those were really the only things we had like planned. And so it was really nice because it was easy for us just to like kind of go with the flow of like the crowd and things like that. We are both like, we don't like lines, like we don't want to have a line, but then one forms anyways. So it's like, so then what happened, because we didn't have a line, is like we got separated.
There was 2 lines.
And there was 2 lines. And then there was like 2 people crowding both of us, and it would have made so much, I think in retrospect, you're like, yeah, the idea of a line isn't the most.
I would do it. I would go back and do
Yeah.
it differently.
Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's too traditional, it's too, but it's like, for our experience, it happened either way,
Everyone wanted to say hi, so that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend? Like, if you were to go back and do it again, would you do the big bridal party line? Would you just do the 2 of you? Would you do you and your parents? What would you recommend?
I would say, me personally, I would do us and our parents, because it was funny. If you looked out at our reception, I had a line, Hayden had a line, his parents had a line, and my parents had a line. Like, my mom was standing by the door trying to greet everyone, but then that made it so the line was out the door, like, and it was December, so people were freezing. And so I remember multiple times during that, my mom had to like go outside and just get people to come in, because like lines just kept forming all over the place. So for me, it makes more sense just to have like the bride and the groom and the 2 parents. Like, I don't think the bridesmaids or anything were necessary, because it was nice for them, because they were just running around and kind of doing the stuff that my mom may have normally been doing. The bridesmaids really kind of stepped up, and they helped with like the little things that were going wrong. Like, that's something I noticed a lot, is like all my bridesmaids were like running around, like helping everything run properly. And my mom didn't have to do that, which was super nice. So if you can get bridesmaids that will help out, do that, because it was awesome.
It was hard for us with the line because we didn't leave space for a line.
It's true.
Like, we set up so many tables. We didn't have a ton of tables, but the majority of the space was tables in there. So people were like weaving between the tables, trying to see us. And if I did it again, I would leave an open space, and I would have us and our parents in one giant line. And it would take longer for other people, but it was hard because like, people would come up to me who I really knew, who maybe she didn't, but wanted to meet her, and it was almost impossible for them to meet her because she had her own line, So I would have done 1 line.
I do too, yeah.
Instead of
I
4.
agree. Yeah.
What about your the Arizona one?
Same.
We didn't have a line at all, almost.
No, I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know what was different about that one.
It was more, I would say it's even more relaxed. It was in a
Yeah.
backyard, there was tables, there was food. We did have a dance floor, but only the kids used it. Yeah, I don't know. It was colder. It was colder outside, so people didn't stay as long, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too.
I don't remember having a giant line. I think people came at a pace where we could
Yeah,
say
it was
hi.
more like sporadic, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't ever overwhelming at that one.
Okay.
So
kind of 2 different experiences
yeah,
with each one.
One was very, very relaxed. The other one, and for me, the one in Arizona, I knew almost nobody. So I think it was a lot easier to stick like closer to Hayden,
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't know. I don't know any of these people.
Well, and you served your mission in
Salt Lake.
and
Yeah.
so you had a lot of.
Yeah, so I did know quite a few people.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. One thing I do want to ask you is, you mentioned that you did like the garter toss, the bouquet toss. Did you do that at both receptions?
No.
No, we didn't. We only did it at the Salt Lake one. Like, I think the one in Arizona was more like an open house. Maybe that's a better word to call it. It was more like, just come. I did choose to wear my wedding dress to both, because I think a lot of Hayden's family and stuff wanted to see it. But I mean, honestly, if you have to do it where you have to have your wedding day and like multiple receptions, I would not recommend wearing your wedding dress a 3rd time. It was just so much work, every single time. And for how relaxed it was, like, I felt like it was hindering me more than it was helping me, if that makes sense. Like, everyone would go walk around somewhere and we're on grass, and I'd have to like pick up my skirt and like, yeah. So if you're doing multiple, I would say like maybe one wear your wedding dress too, but I don't think it's necessary to wear it. I wouldn't do that again, for sure. I don't know how you felt, but
I just wore my suit.
yeah. Yeah.
I think sometimes the guys have it easier than the
Yeah.
bride does.
Yeah, it's true.
So, well, good. Now, looking back now, is there something that you look back and say, oh man, I wish somebody would have told us about this, or I didn't even think to plan for this?
Yeah. I think, like, as I've been to weddings since mine, like, I ended up spending, almost $500 on our flowers, and then I went to this other wedding, and she had this beautiful bouquet, and I couldn't even tell it was fake, and she's like, oh yeah, like, Hobby Lobby does it for, like, $100. She got all of her flowers for, like, $100, but I was so caught up with, I need fresh flowers, I need a different bouquet each time and stuff. And then hers, she spent a fourth or a fifth of the price that I spent, and she used the same flowers over and over and over again. So in my mind, I was like, oh, fake flowers gonna look bad. But in reality, like, you can't tell. In pictures, you can't tell. Like, I would have gone back and redid that. And it's just like, that's just another extra stress, is trying to keep all the flowers fresh for, especially, we were gonna try for 3 days, you know, from Saturday until Monday. We were gonna try to keep some of them, and it just like,
It just didn't work.
yeah, it was too much. And so that was like one thing that I'm like, I wish I would have known, you know, beforehand. And I think too, like, I think from what we've seen, a lot of like LDS couples at least, they get engaged fairly, so from the time they get engaged and the time they get married is a fairly quick time span. So I felt like just so overwhelmed, and so I would try to do a lot of stuff on my own, and I wish I would have just been more okay with delegating, just been like, take a lot of the pressure off of me and put it, you know, because I had family that was like willing to help, and like I said, bridesmaids and friends, but I really didn't learn to rely on them until the actual wedding day. And if I would have learned that earlier, I feel like it would have saved me a lot of stress and heartache. So I think looking back, I think every girl has like this perfect idea of what she wants her wedding day to be like, but being okay, like letting go of some of maybe that control, because then by the time your wedding day comes, there's so much stuff that you don't even notice. Like, you spend so much time worrying about decorations and flowers and what your bridesmaids are wearing, and then the day of, you're like, oh, everything goes by so quick, you don't even notice. And so maybe just trying not to be a perfectionist helps, I think, a lot in regards to the wedding. So I wish I would have known all that stuff.
What about you, Hayden?
You know, I've been thinking I can't even come up with a good answer, to be honest. Like, other than like the line, I think we did really good.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it went pretty smoothly. And I did appreciate that we didn't have, besides the bouquet toss and the garter, we didn't have like this whole agenda that we wanted to do. And so it was more relaxed, more just talking with people. So that's what I remember the most. I
Yeah.
think.
And like, for me, I was like a little concerned because I'm like, I really want to have dancing, because I think when I think of weddings, I always think of dancing, but then at the same time, almost every wedding I've been to, the dancing sometimes just doesn't turn out, you know, the way I think. Like, there's only a few people on the dance floor, or you can't hear the music as well as you'd hope. So I was like, oh, I won't stress. And what we kind of were thinking is like, we knew we'd have we planned food for 400 at the reception, and we ran out. So it's like, we had just so many people that we needed all those tables, and then our plan was to move back some of the tables and open up the dance floor. But I'm like, I think another thing of advice, if you're gonna have a dance floor, have it set up at the beginning. Like, it's so hard to transition transition your space from one event maybe to the next, because when my mom's like, hey, do you want to take down some of the tables for dancing, there's people sitting at all the tables, so then we would have had to ask them to move. So we just kind of were like, you know, let's ex-nay the dancing. And it ended up being really okay. I don't think anyone felt uncomfortable or like pressured that they had to go dance on the dance floor, because I've been to weddings where they're like, hey, you guys are designated dancers, like you have to go out first and start the dancing so people feel like they can dance. So we didn't have that, and it was actually really nice. I feel like for us, there was also a lot of stress off of us. And I love dancing, and I love like party music and stuff, but it was really nice almost to not have it at a wedding. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's a nice thing.
Okay. And that kind of answers the next question, like if you could go back and do anything differently, what would you do?
Yeah. I say all those things, like, my biggest thing is like not stress, because even like the night before, like, we got the flowers delivered to us and they were all wrong. They weren't what we ordered, and I like had a complete breakdown, and like it didn't ruin it for me, but it made like the feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm getting married, to oh my gosh, this is the most stressful thing in the world, you know? And so like looking back, it's not a big deal. Like I didn't even notice the day of, like, I mean, in the back of my mind, I knew they were wrong because I had saw them the night before. So I would just say, like, I know it's hard, but like try not to stress like the small things, and like it's your wedding day, you know, it's supposed to be a happy thing. It's not supposed to be stressful and yeah, crying and stuff. Because I mean, I've had friends that really do. They're like bridezillas and they're running around doing everything up until the minute they're getting married. And then there's other ones that are maybe almost too relaxed. But I'd say like the most important thing is like, I would say family and like the people there, and just spending time with those who came out to support you. And that's the most important thing for me, I think. Yeah.
I think just also like during the line to also, although you want to have a balance, to not feel pressured, to basically give time to those who have come and talk with them for a few minutes, and don't be looking at the corner of your eye like you want to go talk to somebody else. To kind of just, you know, give them a feeling of appreciation for coming to celebrate with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really kind of sum up, I think what you guys are talking about is really being in the moment.
Yes.
Rather than worrying, like when the wedding day comes, like
Yeah.
no matter what other stresses are there, or you know, you see people walking in, you see how long the line is, just essentially be in the moment.
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly.
I think another fear of mine, and what I would go back and do differently, even in regards to, for some reason I think, especially with like Pinterest and social media, we all want this like picture perfect wedding. And so like my mom would be like, oh, I'm gonna make this for you, like, and it was almost like an inherent fear that I'm like, okay, we're not buying this thing, it's not gonna look perfect. And so I think that caused a lot of tension even between my family, because I was like, I don't want all this handmade stuff at my wedding, you know, because we all want that like picture perfect thing. And so for our food at the Salt Lake reception, we did zupas. Do you remember? So we ordered some soup from Zupas, but we knew there was just so much people, like so many people gonna be there. So I had all my family like, oh, we'll make all this soup. And like in the back of my mind, it was like such a fear. I'm like, I don't want to have half store-bought stuff, half homemade stuff. But then the day of, like everyone loved all of it. So I think just those little like silly fears, like I would go back and like talk myself down. I think like, I
didn't even know you had those fears.
Yeah, it's a real thing, but I think any girl would be like, oh, I totally know what you're talking about. Because you just want everything to look good, but I would be more trusting, I think, in the people who are trying to help me in regards to letting go of control and things like that. So.
Good. Well, I think you guys have really given couples that are going through the wedding planning process a lot of good tips. Is there any closing tips or advice that you would give to them?
I would say start as like, people kind of made fun of us, but even before I was engaged, we were engaged. I had the reception venue booked. I had the temple booked, just because like you have to plan far enough in advance that you're not like panicking when everything's obviously coming down to the last minute. And like a lot of people are like, you're crazy, what if you don't ever get married? But it's like, but what, I knew we were going to, you know, eventually.
And you could cancel it if not.
Yeah, exactly. I would, like in the back of my mind, I was like, I would much rather have all this stuff set before it comes down to the last minute. Because we were only engaged, for 3 months? 3 months? And so if I would have left everything to that 3-month period, it would have been miserable. So some people were like, you're nuts, but other people were like, well, for me, I'm like, okay, this is the smartest thing I can do. So even before engaged, I had some stuff booked and I had some stuff planned. Like, it's not a bad thing to start planning in advance, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah, if you've talked about it, I mean. Yeah.
I think just focus on your spouse during the day. I mean, that's the most important thing. So
True.
yeah, don't let anything else get you riled up.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for taking a few minutes.
Thanks.
This has been awesome tips. I'm excited to share it on the blog, so it'll be great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're excited
Thanks.
to be here.